All right. Welcome, everyone. I am Sarah Marie Paul, and I am here with Jill Chamberlain. And all of you, welcome. We are so excited to be here and to share some information with you this evening, all about letting go and unlocking your true potential. So we are going to discuss a lot of emotional healing this evening, which is one of our absolute favorite topics. And as you come in, could you also just make sure that your microphone is muted? I'm trying to manually go through and mute everyone. It's not because I don't want to hear from you. It's just because background noise can be a little bit distracting to some of our people. If you have any questions, we welcome all of them. If you just pop them into the chat feature, that would be the preferred method of communication tonight. So what we are going to do this evening, we are going to start with just a little bit of an intro from both of us that you know who we are and why we are here speaking to you. And then we're going to just kind of give you the lay of the land. So Jill, do you mind doing a little bit of an introduction?
All right. Can everybody hear me? Good. Okay. Well, first I want to thank Sarah for inviting me to even do this class with her. We had done one in the past, and that was stretching outside of what I call my comfort zone, and to be asked again to do another one was quite an honor. So for those of you who do not know me, my name is Jill Chamberlain, and kind of going back many, many years before children, I'll start kind of at that phase of my life. I was a health and physical education teacher and an athletic trainer. So I've always had the desire and interest in the health field. I subsequently married a chiropractor who has a wellness practice that we've had for the last 28 years. So my life has continued in that direction. And I'm just always looking and open to ways to add value to my health, whether that be my physical health, my mental, my emotional well-being. And that kind of road led me to a community that Sarah is a part of. And I guess in recent months, I've just kind of increased the volume on my expression of my passion and interest in sharing, you know, my story and how maybe that might be able to benefit someone else. So that's kind of it in a nutshell. You are muted, Sarah.
Muted myself. Sorry, I'm going through trying to be a hot finger on the microphone. If you realize that your mic becomes unmuted, if you could just mute it for us, that would be really helpful. Thank you so much. And thank you, Jill, and thank you for agreeing to come back on and to talk about something that I know is just so near and dear to both of us, which is letting go. And my name is Sarah Marie Paul, and I see some familiar faces, and I also see some new faces on here. So I feel so blessed to be able to be here, and for you to choose to spend your time here with us this evening. So what we are going to do, we're going to outline the night. I'll let you know a little bit of information about me. We're going to make this be awesome. So make sure you have paper, make sure you have a writing utensil in front of you, because we are going to give you some nuggets of information that you're going to want to take home and be able to use immediately, like tonight. I'm going to end this evening with one of my breathing techniques. I know that is why some of you, the only reason that you come here is so that you get that breather at the end of the talk. So I promise you, I'll give you one of those again, just so that you leave here feeling rejuvenated and recharged. I am a wellness educator, and I am a health coach, and I have, like Jill, I was an educator for 10 years prior. Can you guys hear me okay? Okay. I was a public school teacher for about 10 years prior in my life. And then 3 years ago, I decided to quit my job and to pursue my passion, which I realized was my passion, was still in educating, but in educating others just on living their best lives from a wellness perspective. And I did that because my son at the time was very sick. He was just over a year old, and he had recently had an allergic reaction to penicillin. Had put him in the hospital for observation for anaphylaxis at the time. It was the scariest moment of my life. I was not sleeping well at the time. I was extremely anxiety ridden, and I just needed to figure out something else. So I made it a mission to be able to really help and support other women who were feeling overwhelmed with options when it came to their health and when it came to their wellness. And I just wanted to support them in order to make it easier and not as complicated as I felt like it had been for me on my journey. So we fast forward 3 years later. I love what I do, and I am really now just kind of niching out to do things with emotional support. I also have a psychology degree, and so now I'm kind of bringing up that back education to really deal with past trauma and also emotional release for friends and for clients. So tonight's topic, letting go and unlocking your true potential, is something that I am extremely passionate about. So Jill introduced herself. I gave you my brief introduction. What we're going to do, we're going to get right into it. And Jill is going to be talking about something that is a very valuable resource that she and her family have used to help to guide them through thoughtful discussions, and also that she has used with her children, which I think is absolutely incredible. Then I'm going to explain a little bit about how you can start to let go of lies that have been told to you and that you still believe from the time that you were an itty bitty child or a teenager, or maybe it was something from a relationship that you had more recently. I'm going to help you work through a little bit of that. And then what we are going to do, I'm going to tell you about some upcoming workshops that we have that are going to dig a little bit deeper into this topic. I'm going to end the breathing technique, and then I will also ask you for a little bit of feedback. So we're going to get right started. And Jill, I want you to share this resource. What made you pick this topic to begin with? Because I put the ball in your court.
You did. So Sarah and I had a meeting, and we talked about doing a second class together. And she said, think about, something that you might want to share. So that led me to going to my greatest resource, which is my husband. And we were having a conversation, and I was kind of sharing with him some of the various classes that I have taken that Sarah has taught over the last couple months, weekly classes. And he said, well, of all the things that you have learned and that you've done, what's something that's still there that you need to figure out? And it was like that question just had the answer right after it. And I said to him, I still care what other people think about me.
Okay, stop right there. Stop right there. Sorry. Anybody else still feel that way? Like, it's okay. You don't have to start like doing whatever, but just like, give me a something. You fancy people out there who know how to put your hand up on Zoom, do that. Yeah. Other people are like, I can do that too, right? I got my hand up. So yeah, does anyone still struggle with that at times? We call it the G.A.F factor. I will make it be the give a freak factor for any ears this evening who need that. But in my house, it's called the give a freak factor. And we're going to talk about how to dial that down a little bit, because we have to do that. Right, Jill?
That is right.
Yeah. So go for it. I apologize for interrupting.
No, please. I want the dialogue. So when I said that out loud, he said, well, that's what you need to talk about. That's what you need to journal on. That's what you need to examine. And basically what I realized is that's the thing that's holding me back from any dream that I could possibly dream. So that led me to when I kind of went back to Sarah and said, I think this is the area I'd like to focus on. I wanted to be able to share a resource, not just talk about my story. And my family, under the guidance of my wise husband, about 2 or 3 years ago, well, it's probably 3 or 4 years ago now, said, you know what we're going to do? We're going to have our version of a Bible study or our version of a book club. And he brought this book to us and said, we're going to read this chapter by chapter. And we're going to break this thing down, and we're going to talk about each part of this book, which is basically 4 parts. And that's kind of what evolved for us as a family. And at that time, my youngest, who's now 18, was probably 13 or 14. And I wouldn't say that you couldn't even go younger with this. You could. And I would challenge you to do that if you have a family of young children, because I think we sell them short sometimes on what they can understand and the gift that could be given to them at an age that's so fundamental and so transformative with this information. So, and I'm not going to be elusive to be elusive, but I'm going to save the name of the book for later because I want everybody to focus and not be Googling and trying to find it on Amazon if that's where you're led to go. But basically, this book breaks it down to what they call the 4 agreements. And we're just Sarah and I are going to kind of volley back and forth and talk about these 4 agreements. But again, they're connected to the topic tonight about letting go so that you can unlock your full potential. Because to unlock your full potential, you have to be open. You have to be vulnerable. You have to be real. You have to be honest. And that started for us by going through this book. So the first agreement is be impeccable with your word. This is probably the most important agreement of the 4. And it sometimes is the most difficult to honor. And I have a quote directly from the book, so I'm going to read that to you. Your word is a force. It is a power that you have to express and communicate, to think and thereby create the events in your life. It's the most powerful tool you have, and you either create your most beautiful dream or you can destroy everything around you if you aren't impeccable with your word. So I would suggest you write that down, and these are going to be things that you can go back to after this class and actually write a little bit on. Dare I say the dirty word journal, because that scares a lot of people, but we'll talk about that later. Journal on that and see where in your life you might be challenged with that. Be honest and step back and then go back to that later and look back at it. Is there anything you'd like to say on that first agreement, Sarah, about being impeccable with your word and how that might be a part of the letting go and unlocking the potential that we all have?
Absolutely. Because the words, it's not just the words that you say to other people. It's your inner dialogue.
Yeah.
Too.
Yeah.
So what an action step for this, for tomorrow, or even for tonight, I want you to think about every single time that you have a negative thought or say a negative statement. And I want you to do a little bit of a tally. Okay, and that's going to be the first step. I'm going to give you more tangible things to do with that, but I want you to just be aware. First step is awareness, okay? It's awareness of that negative talk. It's awareness of that negative thought pattern, okay? And it's then an awareness, obviously, of when you're spouting negativity to those who are around you. But first and foremost, it begins with what's going on inside your brain, like inside your inner dialogue and that negative self-talk. Because those of us who are able to be aware of that, able to catch that, able to reprogram that, are going to have a much, much better chance of having positive interactions with those that we love who are around us. But it starts there too. So don't think of it in isolation as just the words that you are saying out loud to others. Mm-hmm. I want you to, in fact, take this and think about the words that you are saying inside in your inner dialogue to yourself. Because as I'm going to go through a little bit later, it's going to be about the lies that you were told, right? That are the lies that some of us are still believing. That's going to trigger a lot of those negative thought patterns. So we're going to talk about that. But that's what I want to say. So be impeccable with your word, not
Whether
just
that's to others or to yourself. Yeah. And I will say, you know, you're a mother as well, and for everybody that is one out there, it has been by far the greatest blessing of my life, but the biggest challenge and the greatest responsibility. And we've taught our children that with this first agreement, that when you aren't impeccable with your word and people can't trust what you're saying, it ultimately nicks a little piece of you out every time you do that. We use the word committing treason upon yourself, because when you know you should be doing something that you know you should be doing and you don't do it, you're hurting you. So that's kind of the way we have explained it, you know, at the time to a 13-year-old. So anyway, I just wanted to add that. So true, whether it's to others, to yourself, be impeccable with your word. The second agreement, if my husband is here, he'd be laughing. So don't take anything personally, which I can kind of tag to caring what other people think. When you take something personally, it's because you agree with whatever has been said. And taking the thing personally, whether it's positive or negative, it works on both sides here, folks. It's not just when someone says something mean or yucky or ugly to you that you can get offended. But when someone says something lovely to you and you have that like, oh, I feel better about myself because somebody said something wonderful about me. It's also that side of it too. And it's actually the ultimate form of selfishness. Now, this was a really hard pill for me to swallow when we went through this chapter, because I was trying to rationalize and say, but when that person says blah, blah, blah about me, how can that not hurt me? I'm not that person. And he's like, you're making it about you. Whatever someone else's opinions, beliefs, and words are that they direct to you, that's them, folks. That's not you. That's the agreement they've made with them. So I think if everybody could cut that one and just know that whether it's negative or positive, you don't own what other people think, feel, say, presume about you. It's nothing to do with you. And if we could just hurdle that one, I think we'd be on a much quicker path to breaking through some of these boundaries and chains and stories and all that junk and past traumas and all of those things that we all have, because we've all lived life. But that's my 2 cents on don't take things personally. And that's a hard one. When you're a giving heart and you're doing for others and you want to add value to the world, to your community, to those you love, it's a hard one to figure out when you get something back that doesn't feel right to what you were emitting, I guess.
Absolutely, Jill. And does anyone else have that struggle? Do you have that struggle in taking things personally when other people say things to you? Do you have that struggle? Or do I have any empaths who are here who kind of, internalize most of the things that happen around you? Let me know. Because that is something, again, it is, like Jill said, it is not about the journey that you are on. In fact, if you are on this journey and you know the journey that you are on and you know who you are and you know that you're coming from a place of love and you know your intentions and you are so steadfast in that, then other people could say anything they want about you and you would just keep on chugging along, knowing that has nothing to do with you. That has everything to do with them.
Amen.
Everything. Okay. I have shared information about my personal life. I share a lot of information about my personal life and my past struggles, traumas that I have been through and ways that I have been able to overcome some pretty deep things. And I share that some things more recently publicly, in my sobriety. I've been a sober woman for a little bit over 5 years. And I have had a lot of reactions to that I was not expecting. Okay. Things said to me from family members, things said to me from friends that in the beginning, they shook me. I was very much taken back by that. But now where I'm at in my life, I don't let that bother me at all, because like we just said, I know for a fact it has nothing about the choices that I'm making for my life. It has everything to do with, like Jill said, the agreements, right, that those people have made in their life. Mm-hmm. And also like the schema, the way that they view the world, the way that they view themselves, the lies that they believe, or the struggles that they are going through. And that's the way that they are choosing to use their words, which may not always come from a place of love. So what we can do is just know that we can always be coming from a place of love, acting from a place of love, and seeking more joy, true joy for ourselves too. So I think that's important as well.
Definitely. And I just want to add to that, you know, like, because I have a couple examples of this issue personally for me. You have to check yourself first, though. You have to know that you're coming from a place that's in the greatest good of all. So I'll just give an example. So I've mentioned that my husband has a chiropractic and wellness practice. And, you know, I've been a part of that practice on and off for 28 years. And we've had different team in there, different times. And I would always find great anxiety when I would notice something that wasn't probably being done by a team member or team members in the past, that wasn't in the greatest good of the moment for our patients or for the use of time. And I always found anxiety with the approach to them, to not, you know, scold them or, you know, yell at them or slap their hand, but to bring it to awareness so that we could get back on track on doing the most best right thing in that moment. And I was worried about what people were going to think of me when I addressed it, because we use that word that I think a lot of people are scared about or get really uncomfortable around, confrontation, as if that's some negative thing. It's not a negative thing if you're coming from a place of love, goodness, and for the greater good. So to not address someone that you need to address or handle a situation because you're worried about what they're going to think about you, selfish. Then the greater good's not going to happen, because I'm caught in my own little cycle with my own little BS that I can't do what's right for the majority of people. And I think if you all wrote in right now, we probably have a million examples of those scenarios when it comes to taking things personally, and how it can really be a true detriment on a much more you know, global level when you don't address what you need to address because you're worried about yourself. So I just wanted to give a little example there. The third agreement is another biggie, and one that I struggle with. It's don't make assumptions. The problem with making assumptions is that we believe they are truth. And when we believe something, that belief can alter then our actions. So I think, I don't know anybody who's never made an assumption or assumed something in their life, but without the real information, you're just creating a story that's untrue. And that untruth of that story then derails you again from being your best, from serving at your highest level, doing the greater good for all those involved. Anything about assumptions there, Sarah?
My gosh, I could talk about assumptions for
assumptions could be a whole class, actually. Yeah,
for quite a long time. But I also like, I attribute or I kind of connect assumptions to worry. Okay. So worrying, assuming, putting words into someone else's mouth. I talk about this when I do business coaching, and when I talk about with the people that I coach about, selling out of their own pocket and making decisions for other people about what they what they deem valuable and what they deem as not valuable, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because so often we put our limiting beliefs onto other people and assume that they feel the same exact way that we do about a certain situation. Because why? Because we're taking our agreements, right? And we're applying them to the other person, and we're speaking for that person. So we need to stop doing that. We need to stop making assumptions, because, you know, I'm sure that all of you have heard the saying that, you know, worrying is like praying for something that you don't want to happen. It's like literally sitting there and praying and really spending a ton of time on something that you don't want to happen, or something that most likely will never happen, right? And instead of being impeccable with our tongue and literally asking the questions to that person, asking that those real hard questions to get to that truth about how that person really feels, about what that person really wants, all of those things, we are just assuming, and we're not even going to ask, because why bother? Why bother?
Everything has to be
right?
Socratic. Everything has to be Socratic. That's exactly right. You are limiting, but you are imposing your limiting beliefs on a scenario that you have no knowledge of.
Absolutely. None. And you have no idea why, you know, you have no idea why that person didn't call you back. You have no idea if that woman was actually giving you a dirty look, or if she just has a resting bitch face. Like, you have no idea. So why are you trying to like put that assumption into it if you didn't even give the person the opportunity to respond, or the opportunity to be honest with you, or the opportunity to explain, or the opportunity to have a conversation? Because so often we close ourselves down with those limiting beliefs, or with those assumptions that we have. And like Melinda said, you know, she correlates assumption to judgment, right? Which is so true as well. It is. Because you're passing a judgment about what a person will do, what a person won't do, what a person can do, what a person can't do. And yeah, yes, Barbara just said the law of attraction. Oh my goodness. Yes, we've talked about it so often in our past trainings that we've had. It really is. It's like, what you think, you will bring more of that into your life, right?
What you think about, you bring about. Yep.
Absolutely, which is so true. But it's the same thing with assumptions too. Like, if you have this negative outcome that you are thinking is going to happen, or this negative assumption, and then you go to interact with that person, what type of energy do you think that you're bringing to the table?
Yep.
That interaction. So no, that's what I have. That's what I have on assumptions.
Very good.
Number 4?
Number 4. So always do your best. You know, we raise our kids. You might have been raised kind of with that credo. This agreement truly allows all of the other agreements to become deeply ingrained habits. Whatever the circumstance, you always want to do your best, and realize that in any circumstance, your best might look different than the other circumstance, because in all areas of your life, the way the best, quote, represents itself isn't going to look the same in every scenario. So those 4 little sentences have so much weight and power. And when we were working through chapter by chapter with our children, it took months to do. We would go through a sentence and someone would go, I don't understand that. I don't believe that. When I do this, blah, 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 blah. And we often found ourselves, all 4 of us, caught in a moment, a knee-jerk reaction of rationalization, rather than just realizing it, committing to it, and saying, I'm going to do my best to live my life by these agreements. And it's not a joke in our house. It's literally a philosophical, foundation upon how, and we all catch each other in the moments where I do assume, and my husband looks at me with that face, and we can like click. I always say it's that rubber band test. You put a rubber band around your wrist, And when you have like a negative thought, you snap it, so that hopefully you desensitize, or, you realize, I'm not going to keep having negative thoughts because I don't like the way that rubber band feels against my wrist. We are a catch point for each other as a family. So one thing I wanted to say about that, in case you are someone out there that doesn't have a house full of people that you could potentially read this book and kind of break down the chapters, that's okay, because you might have people in your life outside of your home that you can be open and honest and vulnerable with, and maybe suggest doing this as your next book club book if you're involved in a group like that. Or you could read this book all by yourself, and you could go back and you could journal on each agreement after you read the chapter. And journaling is the tool that I wanted to add to the tail end of this. And we talked about in our last class, Sarah, that it is literally the cheapest form of therapy that we could all have. It is a third-party look. So in the moment, whenever you're dealing with anything, gratefulness, chaos, whatever, and you sit and you write, and then you step away and you walk back into it later, you're now the third party. You're removed from the main situation. And you can read your stuff, and if it's BS, you're going to know it's BS. If it doesn't make sense, you're going to know it doesn't make sense. If it's something that you need to dig into further, you're going to know you need to write more on it. So I wanted to offer that huge thing of journaling, which I think sometimes, me included, scares people to do because they don't want to sit and crab and moan and complain. But when you don't get it out of you, it is in you. And what is that doing to you, in you, on a body chemistry level, on a physiological level, on a cellular level, on, all of those things, on an energetic level. So I just wanted to throw that in there real quick, that if you don't have the same scenario that I had, there's no excuse to not still try to work on these. You just have to find the way that works in your life to work on these agreements.
Absolutely. And I think that, that's important too, because for so many of us, when it comes to lies that we have believed, or with blocks that could be in the way, that it would just be an excuse then. Well, I don't have that. I don't have what Jill had, so this isn't going to work for me. Rather than thinking about it like, oh, that is really awesome what you just shared. I'm going to figure out a way for it to work for me. Okay, so you can take a listen to the different mindset that's in there. And again, be mindful of that negative self-talk as well. And then what I'm going to talk to you about a little bit is about lies. So lies that we tell ourselves, and a little bit about ways to let go of some of those. And then we're going to have a little bit of a breathing technique, and we're going to talk about a little bit of the future. So we have just a little bit more time. So think about this. We all lie to ourselves at different times. And I'm going to talk a lot, what this kind of seems like is more about assumptions, but it's also based on experiences that we've had from the past. So an example of this could be if you're at work and your boss says to you to change something that you're doing. Oh, perhaps, this isn't the way that you should do this. Maybe you should go about it and do it this way. Your first instinct is to conclude that, oh, I'm not good at my job, okay? So that is one example of a lie that you can tell to yourself. Or an example that happened to me a couple months ago was my son. I dropped him off at my sister's house. This is September of last year. I dropped him off at my sister's house for a long weekend. He was 4 at the time, still is 4, he'll be 5 soon. And he got there, he was fine. My husband and I went away for a weekend. We went to Nashville, we went to business training, and we also went for a nice weekend away. And what ended up happening was my sister called me in the middle of the night, the first night that we were there, because my son would not stop crying. Awful, right? He wanted to come home. He could not come home. I immediately, in my mind, start thinking things like, I am a horrible mother. I have to be so selfish. Like, I can't believe I left my child at my sister's house under her loving care. Like, what was I thinking? But all of these things start coming up for me, when in reality, that's so far from the truth. I'm not a bad parent at all. It was the first time that we had left him at my sister's house ever for a sleepover. We were gone for 2 nights. We love each other and we're in a happy marriage, and we should be able to go away for a weekend and do those things, right? Other things, like maybe your significant other is withdrawn lately, is distant, and you are just thinking in your mind, oh my gosh, what did I do wrong? What did I do, to have our relationship be at this point, when in reality, it could have absolutely nothing to do with you. So step number 1, or what I want to implore you, which is something that we've talked about so many times, is to really, try to let go by listening to what your body and your head are telling you. So when the lies are talking, you'll know because you'll feel a tension that's growing at some place in your body. Jill was just talking about these negative emotions and these negative feelings and how they manifest in different places within our body, which we've talked about many times before. That if you have feelings, for instance, I showed the example of the tremendous jaw pain that I was having, to the point that I went to the dentist. I could not figure out what was happening. I had this awful jaw pain that came on all of a sudden. And, the dentist told me that I had to get a mouth guard. But I was like, yeah, but why all of a sudden? Like, why after 35 years am I all of a sudden having this come up? And the dentist said that they had no idea, however, that I should get this professional mouth guard and that would take care of it. But I was thinking more about the root cause. So I looked it up in one of my emotional books, and it said, that feeling of having TMJ, that feeling of having pain within your jaw, that physical manifestation of pain is actually from having words that you are not speaking. You're not speaking your truth. And it rang so true to me in a very specific situation that I was having with a family member at the time. And it was amazing. After I just wrote a couple of letters to that family member that I never ended up mailing, but I ended up getting all of that information out. I got it out into written words. I ended up just kind of, burning them in the fire, which sounds so typical, but guess what, guys? I never got that mouth guard for my mouth. And guess who no longer has TMJ? Literally, that's amazing, right? So listen to your body, listen to your head, know what they are telling you. You feel that feeling within your stomach, you feel that feeling within your mind, your jaw will tighten and you'll find yourself becoming defensive in the middle of whatever is happening at the moment when lies are talking. You will feel that happening. And this is when, instead of reacting, that you really have to back up and ask the major question: why am I reacting like this? Where is that coming from? And you might hear other statements in your self-talk, such as, oh, it's happening because I'm an idiot, or this is just like the last time, or I might as well give up. Okay, that's where the negative self-talk is coming from. And then I want you to stop, and I want you to dig deeper, and I want you to say, yeah, but where is that coming from? Where are these feelings coming from? Where are these deep-seated emotions coming from? Where is this coming from? Okay? And many times I feel like you'll be able to kind of trace it back to very specific situations, to maybe one of the first times that you felt that way, in a situation that you're still holding on to today from the past. So that's one. I really truly believe in using your body as a guide, and using your body, your physical Yes, yes, Kylene. If I call myself an idiot, who used to call me an idiot? Who made me feel like an idiot, right? Who made me feel like I was less than? Where can I bring that back to? What early experience can I pull that back to? How can I then become at peace with that experience, right? How can I forgive? How can I forgive? Oh my gosh, so many good things happening right now in the comments. But yes, how can I forgive that? Because when we're talking about forgiveness, we also have to remember that for you, in order to forgive someone, because a lot of this is going to come back to emotions then that stem from early experiences in childhood, or it's going to come from emotional experiences that you had, maybe traumatic experiences, or negative experience that you've had in relationships, or maybe negative experiences that you're having now in a relationship too. And then it comes back to forgiveness. And forgiveness is more about self-compassion than it ever really is about that other person. It really is. Because by you holding on to something, because you know that the other person is wrong, you know that that other person shouldn't have said those things. And by you playing that blame game internally, it's doing nothing but a detriment to you emotionally and to you physically and to you by putting up blockages into where you really could be. Yes, Barbara, yes, forgiveness is for us to heal and release those energy cords, because what we are holding on to, exactly what Barbara said, you are connected to that person in that negative way by not forgiving. And it doesn't mean what the person did is okay. It does not mean that you are making allowances for that person's actions. It does not mean that at all. It just means that you forgive that it happened, and that you are choosing to move on, and you are choosing to find joy, and you are choosing to manifest more joy in your life and to let that go, because you know that if you carry that on, you're only going to get so far, because it's going to keep holding you back. It will. Okay. And if you are at a place right now where you feel as though you're kind of like stuck. Okay. You're at a place where you are stuck and you've kind of reached your ceiling. Okay. You've reached your glass ceiling emotionally. Then I really, really recommend that you kind of go through this process and you really think about some deep rooted emotions that you might be holding on to, or some connections that you might be holding on to that are holding you back. I'm going to go through just a couple other examples as well. Jill, can you share what you just shared in the comments?
The thoughts? Yes, yeah. The thoughts. Okay. I was just responding to someone on that. So yeah. Thoughts create your feelings or equal your feelings, which equal your reactions, which create your reality. So it's a law. My husband's chiming in the back because that's a big one for him. Your reality is all what you see, what you feel. It's not necessarily the reality. And I was just writing to someone who commented on that personally, that it really shows you where your personal responsibility lies. I don't want to diminish that any of us have had past trauma and have a story. But I also want to be really clear that if we keep using that story as our barrier to achieve whatever life we were put on this planet to achieve, then that's on us, man. That's on us. Because once you realize that that's a connection, that TMJ's connection to rage or whatever it is, now it's up to you to not perpetuate that story anymore and let that story, and I'm going to say the word, become an excuse for your actions or your inactions. This is a crazy manual, and I don't expect anybody to go out and get it, but because my husband's a doctor, it's messages from the body. And you can look up, like if I have a pain in my shoulder that just weirdly appears. I didn't work out, I didn't lift a weight, I didn't sleep wrong, and it just kind of came out of nowhere. We go into this book and we look up right shoulder pain. And I'm just guessing this. I'm not saying that this is the real thing. Right shoulder pain opens, I read it, and it says anger that hasn't been released from childhood. You know, something like that, where that connective point emotionally is breaking down and creating physical abnormalities in your life today. So it's not just the emotional context of, you know, the feeling of rage, the feeling of anger. It's what that feeling of rage or anger or sadness or fear or whatever is physically doing to your body. It's unbelievable how every time my husband goes, go get the book, open it up, and then it's your job to dig in and figure out what that's connected to. Truly amazing. Truly amazing. There is no disconnect between what you think up here and everything and how it works throughout your rest of your body. No disconnect.
Absolutely. And there's another book that I put in the comments. It's called Feelings Buried Alive Never Die. I talk about that book often. It's available via Amazon. It's similar to what Jill is talking about, but it's thinner. It's much thinner. And it's like an easy version to kind of work through that as well. If you're talking about chronic pain issues, I shared the example of when COVID first hit, and all of a sudden my husband and I both came down with lower back pain, right? First time ever. And we both looked at each other. We thought it was our mattress. We had no idea. And then, oh, let me look in my book that I'm always telling other people about. And what the root of lower back pain was, it was financial stress. It was immediately. And it was just the thought of, you know, both of us are small business owners. Our business is shutting down. What are we going to do? We both did that at the same exact spot. Jen Swigert shared that the emotion code speaks on this as well. And messages from the body is the one that people shared. So there's so many good, just take a look at the comments and there's so much good stuff. So with exactly what Jill was saying, I'm going to piggyback on that, because you can also let go by confronting what you hear head on rather than hiding from it. Okay? So I'm going to give you a little bit of tough love right now. When the lies raise their ugly heads, because they do, we automatically respond. We're conditioned to respond to those thoughts. We're conditioned to respond to those feelings. Most of us run by giving ourselves a treat. It might be your favorite drink. It might be a festival of sugar. Okay, it might be a few too many hours scrolling the internet or watching Netflix, or maybe it's just a book, right? But maybe it might be more than that. Maybe it might be eating a whole bunch of ice cream and calling it comfort food, right? The secret here is to observe yourself. So the next time that you are feeling these lies, next time that these lies are coming up for you, right? Catch yourself, just like we're going to be doing a tally of all these negative thought patterns. Oh my gosh, here I am, right? I caught it. I'm going to redirect it. So what is happening? Where do I hide so I will feel better when I feel guilty or when I feel inadequate? Confronting means to figure out the secret plan your heart is using to avoid things so that you can face it bravely and you can face it head on. Because like Jill said, we could just keep going on, right? We can keep going on and on and on and using these circumstances as an excuse, or we can use what we have been through to empower us to make change, to make real change in our lives. And that can absolutely happen as well. But it's up to us to do that then without that what we're hiding, without hiding, and to face it head on. So what I'm going to do now, because we have about 9 minutes until we are done. I have so many notes. My goodness. I always have like twice as much content as to what we end up sharing. So what I want to share with you, I'm going to share a breathing technique with you, but first I also want to share something else with you. I have been, yes, Barbara, you are right on, Barbara. You have some really incredible things to share. So yes, exactly. We are both self-employed, and that's why we felt that way too. I'm going to share with you that last year, how many of you have heard of AFT, or the Aroma Freedom Technique? A couple of you. Yeah. No. All right. Couple yeses. Couple no's. Okay. So last year, it was a year ago. It might have been 2 years ago, actually. It was 2 years ago, about 2 years ago, a year and a half ago. I had the opportunity to have a friend who was an Aroma Freedom Technique trainer come in and do a session with myself, with Denise, and with a whole bunch of other friends as well, because we were going through a time. It's Aroma Freedom Technique, AFT, also known as Aroma Freedom Technique. And what this is, it is a step-by-step process designed to be learned and to be used by anyone who is really wanting to experience more freedom in their life. It is a new approach that incorporates essential oils, and it is done in order to shift a person's mental state, to shift their mood, to shift their ability to take positive action, and also to help release blocks that are in the way in a matter of minutes, actually. And I wanted to share this with you because I have been in the process of getting trained as an Aroma Freedom Technique trainer so that I will be able to do this technique with others. So I am organizing my first group training. It's going to be on September 21st in the evening. So that's going to take place of one of our Monday night emotional calls. And I am just doing it for a small group of individuals, a small group. So I am capping the number at 20. I'm letting all of you know this before I then put it out to the public. And what I am going to be doing is I have 2 different prices that I'm going to be charging. Typically our Monday night calls are always free because I love to give you all information, but this is going to be including samples of all the oils. So the oils that are used, there are a ton of different oils that are used. In addition, you're going to get a follow-up session with me as well. So you're going to get my time too. And for members who are in our organization, in our Team Live Well organization, the cost is just $35 for an hour-and-a-half session. And for non-members, it's going to be $50. It's going to have all the oils. I will mail them to you along with worksheets to go through the entire process. The workshop is going to be an hour-and-a-half, so it's going to be from 8 o'clock until 9:30. And then I will have follow-up with each of you individually as well. So I just wanted to let you know that because I'm really excited about it. I'm going to be offering other individualized sessions too, but that's something that I have been working towards, and I'm really, really excited to share that with you. So before I bid you adieu, and before Jill bids you adieu as well, we are going to practice a breathing technique. So put your pens down, put your pencils down. Take a moment to just kind of take a peek. Okay. Now, some of you may be, breathing might just be old hat to some of you, and that's completely fine too. But I know for me, when I really started doing breathing techniques, I didn't realize that when I was breathing, I'm not going to say I was doing it wrong, but I wasn't really doing it in the best way for my body. So what we're going to be doing this evening, we're going to be doing a technique that is called the 4-7-8 technique. Okay, and it's a breathing, it is a relaxation technique. It's a technique that you cannot overdo. You can do this as many times as you want throughout the day, but I do recommend that you do it at least twice a day. And what we're gonna do, I'm gonna show this to you first, and then we're gonna do it together. When you're breathing out, I want you to breathe out through your mouth, and I want you to let out like a whooshing noise, okay? And as you're breathing out, I want your belly to kind of go in, okay? To release the air from your abdomen. So take your hands, place them gently on your belly, right around where your belly button is, and we're just gonna practice breathing out. So you can breathe in first, in through your nose, and now out through your mouth and just release with a whooshing noise. As you do that, your belly, your air should go in, your belly should get tighter, and when you're breathing in, I want your belly to go out, okay? So breathe in. Belly should be filled up like a balloon. Now let's let it out with a whoosh. Okay? So here's the technique for this evening. I just wanted to make sure that you had that good inhalation and exhalation pattern. What we're gonna be doing, we're gonna be closing your mouth and inhaling quietly through your nose for a mental count of 4. After that, we're going to hold on to our breath for 7 seconds. Then we're going to be exhaling completely through our mouth, making a whooshing noise for 8 seconds. So this is the 4, 7, 8 technique. We're going to be inhaling for 4 through our nose, holding for 7, exhaling for 8, and then starting it all over again. We're going to go through 4 breath cycles of this. We're going to do each of those things 4 times. Do we have any questions before we begin? All ready to go? You can take your hands, put them on your tummy. You just serve it as a good little reminder. We're gonna start breathing in for our nose, count of 4, hold for 7, out through 8. Ready? Begin. When you're finished, I'd like for you to just drop a little comment in the chat of how you felt about that breathing, how you might use that breathing technique. It's something that you can do at any time of the day. Again, it's so simple, 4, 7, 8, okay? 4, 7, 8, so just remember that, write that down, jot that down. So easy, so good. And if you love breathing techniques, you can simply Google stress relief breathing techniques. I really love Kundalini yoga breathing techniques too. In addition, Gabrielle Bernstein, she has some really incredible techniques as well that she shares on a regular basis. One other book that I wanted to share with you, I'm just going to share the title of it that I have been reading. It's called Power of Emotions. That's by Esther and Jerry Hicks. Amazing, amazing, amazing book for a different way of thinking about your emotions and really getting in tune with the way that you think about your emotions and that you think about just your thought processes, all of it. I love it. I'm reading it right now. It's been amazing. Next Monday night's class is going to be all about female hormone support. It's going to be completely natural hormone support for women. Sarah Miller-Stutzman will be leading that, and we will be here with her in supporting. So if you have any specific questions, please let us know. And last but not least, I have a Google Doc that I'm going to ask you to fill out. I'm going to pop it right now into the comments. I'll also put it into our group. It'll take you approximately 3 minutes to fill out, just to give us some feedback on this evening. In addition, I will choose one person at random to get a roller of the oils that I have been slathering myself in this evening. Some of my favorite motivation oils right now are Clarity, Highest Potential, and One Heart. They're just super uplifting, very motivational, and just absolutely amazing. And if you have any questions related to anything that Jill or I can help you with, please feel free to reach out to us as well. But I'm going to pop that link right now so that you have access to that.
While you do that, Sarah, can I say one last thing?
Please, yeah.
I just wanted to say that it is okay that not everyone agrees and understands you, but that should most definitely not prohibit you from achieving whatever it is that you want. And understand that this is all a work in progress type of thing. This isn't here's a symptom and here's the Band-Aid. I'm 50 years old. It took 50 years to get here. You're not going to clean this up, in a day, in a week, in a month. It's self-homework. And I have to say, just on a personal shout out to Sarah, that having accountability and taking classes weekly on topics that stretch my thinking, that allow some vulnerability and some honesty to come through, has been a great tool and help in digging more junk out to clear the space for more goodness.
Absolutely. And that's just another thing, if we bring it back to the first point that Jill brought up. The first point that Jill brought up was being impeccable with your word. And I brought up being impeccable with your words that you are telling yourself. Well, if you choose to be around people who are constantly spreading negativity, if you choose to constantly be around people who are not being nice to you, if you choose to kind of surround yourself with that language, then it's no wonder why your thought processes are not going to change. So one way that you can do that, if you think about what they say that you are the sum of the 5 people that you surround yourself with most.
Amen.
And it's the truth. But the beauty of that is, even if you don't have the most positive people in your direct surroundings, the beauty of that is you get to still choose, you get to choose those people who you want to surround yourself with. And that may just be language that you listen to. It may be podcasts. It may be YouTube videos. It may be workshops and trainings like these that just kind of stretch you out of your comfort zone, that have you think about, oh my gosh, there are ways that I can deal with the ways that I'm feeling in a more constructive way. So I just want to encourage you that some of my top 5 people don't even know that they're my people, and that's okay. It's in a very non-stalkerish sort of way. I just listen to them and I follow them, and they make me feel good. And then there have been other people who I just choose to spend more time with, because I know whenever I leave them, I feel filled up, and I feel like I have a higher energy level and a higher frequency than when I went with that person to begin with. So I just encourage you with that thought. I don't want to discourage you by any means, but I want to encourage you that you can choose those people and you can reach out to those people. And that is, that's completely okay. And Barbara, yes. And, put some boundaries on energy vampires, things like that too.
That's great.
That's always something, that you can absolutely do. You just have to ask yourself, am I getting out of what I'm putting in to this relationship? here? Am I learning? Am I being challenged? Am I feeling lifted up, right? Am I feeling lifted up? So I hope that all of you have a great night. I did put the Google Doc in the, I'll put it in there again. I put it in there so that you can feel free to fill that out. And then I will also put that in the event as well. Go ahead, Jill.
Sarah knows me, and those that of you that also do know that I am huge on finding quotes that talk to me and hopefully speak to other people. So is it okay if I end with a quote?
Please do.
I searched my database for the right one tonight. It's all about mindset. From the moment you wake up to the moment you rest your head at night, everything is up to you. Your emotions, your thoughts, your perceptions, and your reactions. Every moment is up to you. That's power. That is power. Take that and know that and do that and be that and work towards that.
You got this, ladies. Have a good night. Thank you so much,
Thanks, everybody.
Jill. Thank you all for
Sarah.
joining us. I hope that you have a great evening.